The shocking truth about Nicodemus: what he did for Jesus' body will haunt you forever. In the heart of ancient Jerusalem, when shadows danced under the olive trees and whispers mingled with the night air, a man named Nicodemus was about to make a choice that would echo through the ages. It was a choice steeped in mystery, fraught with danger, and wrapped in dread. Picture it: dark streets, splashes of torchlight casting eerie patterns against crumbling stone walls. The tension hung thick, like a storm waiting to break, and amid all this, Nicodemus clasped something cold and heavy in his hands: the lifeless body of Jesus. What he did next would shock the world. Few knew the secrets Nicodemus carried. He was a Pharisee, a respected teacher of the law, but he found himself caught in a web of conflicting loyalties. Could he defy his own people? He trembled as he wrapped the body in linen, his heart pounding like a war drum. It felt as if the very ground beneath him could shatter with the weight of his deed. Then, into the sepulchre they went, where the scent of myrrh clung to the air like a ghost, a reminder of grief mingling with hope. The tomb was dark, silent, yet it felt charged, as if it held its breath. As he stumbled back out, a vision flickered in his mind: if anyone found out, what punishment awaited him? Friends would turn to enemies. The council would hunt him down. By saving Jesus, had he doomed himself? A shiver ran down his spine. Would his act of courage be remembered as treason instead? Nicodemus could almost feel the eyes of the city upon him, judging, gossiping, dissecting his every move. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But as Nicodemus left that tomb, he felt an odd sense of relief wash over him, almost like a flicker of hope ignited against the backdrop of despair. He had done what many wouldn't dare. Yet, lurking nearby were shadows, figures in the night, clad in darkness, whispering about the man who had resurrected the buried secrets of the Messiah. Had he just opened a door that should have never been touched? The questions clawed at him. What if the powers that be came looking for him? What terrible consequences awaited after such a profound act of defiance? As he hurried down the narrow alley, heart racing, Nicodemus couldn't shake the feeling that he was not alone. Every rustle of leaves, every echo of footsteps made his very skin prickle. Tomorrow would be a day of reckoning, or, perhaps, a new dawn. But in the depths of his mind, that haunting question loomed: what price would he pay for taking such a sacred risk? The night air felt electric, charged with danger and fear. Nicodemus pressed on, each hurried step echoing like thunder in his chest. His hands trembled, and he brushed them against his tunic, trying to rid them of the remnants of his act. Each memory of Jesus' lifeless body brought a swell of anguish. The world around him faded, it was just him, the pressing weight of his choices, and the lurking shadows that seemed to dance just out of reach. As he neared the edge of the city, the murmur of distant voices broke his thoughts. They were drawing closer, growing louder. He ducked behind an ancient wall, pressing himself against the cool stone. His mind raced. What if they were searching for him? He strained to hear, straining like a deer caught in the hunter's sights. We cannot let this go unpunished, a voice bellowed, raw with rage. Nicodemus's stomach lurched. He recognized it immediately: the high priest, Caiaphas himself. There was no mistaking the venom in his tone. We must find the conspirators, and fast. Their blasphemy must not spread. Conspirators? The word hung in the air like poison. Was he included in this? He choked down a lump in his throat, panic surging through him. He considered his options. His heart hammered louder than the voices, making it hard to think. Then he remembered the myrrh. It could be traced back to him. Panic turned to desperation. He pressed his back against the wall, feeling every jagged stone as if it were a dagger threatening to pierce him. He had to get to his home. He had to destroy anything that would connect him to the tomb. With a final look, Nicodemus peeked around the corner. The figures in cloaks moved purposefully, casting dark shadows that seemed to ripple like ominous waves. They were searching, narrowing their focus around the city like hawks hunting for prey. Fear gripped him, squeezing tightly. He couldn't let them find him, couldn't let them discover his secret. As he raced through the winding alleys, he felt the eyes of the city in every shadow. The remnants of his life as a respected teacher felt like a distant memory. What if former friends turned him in? What if he couldn't escape the consequences? His pulse quickened with each footfall, the weight of his decision crushing him under its enormity. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught his eye, a young woman standing beneath a flickering torchlight. Her wide eyes locked onto his, and for a split second, he debated revealing himself. Could she be trusted? The flicker of hope ignited briefly before the cold calculations of survival dampened it, but then, he heard it. An unmistakable chant from deep within the city, treason, echoed against the cobblestones. It sent chills cascading down his spine. The darkness enveloped him as the voices grew louder, swirling around him like a storm. If he didn't act quickly, he would be swept into their madness. He needed allies, he needed knowledge. Racing forward, he took a sharp turn, hoping fate would lead him to safety, yet, as he crossed a narrow passage, he collided with someone hard. The force spun him around, and in the dim light, he saw her, the young woman from before. Her name flashed in his mind, Mary. But before he could utter a word, she reached out, urgency spilling from her lips. "They're coming for you," she gasped, her breath quickening. "You must listen to me. There is something you need to know." Panic surged anew. What could she possibly know that would change the tides of this growing storm? Did she hold the key to his survival or his downfall? The air crackled with tension, and the night seemed to thrum with impending dread. Would he have to risk it all once again, or could there be a path forward? The shadows closed in around them, and a new urgency quickened Nicodemus's pulse. What revelation could turn destiny's tide? Mary's eyes shone with a mix of fear and determination. "Nicodemus," she hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if the darkness held ears. "I know about the myrrh. But it's more than that. There's a plan unfolding that even you aren't aware of." Every word struck him like a blow, igniting his anxious thoughts. "What are you talking about? I'm already in too deep." His voice positioned the night's hidden dread, the urgency twisting knives in his gut. "I can't be involved any longer. We don't have time," she insisted, her voice rising above the distant shouts. "Listen. Caiaphas isn't just after you. He is hunting for anyone associated with Jesus, but there is more at stake than your safety or mine." Nicodemus could hardly breathe. The shadows around them felt thick with danger, swirling like a storm waiting to unleash itself. "Then tell me," he urged, desperation flooding his tone. "What do you know? What plan?" "The followers of Jesus, I've overheard them. There's talk of a resurrection," she whispered, quick and sharp. The word loomed, piercing through his confusion, paralyzing him in disbelief. "They think he will rise again. And they have a plan to make that happen. They're willing to do anything to keep his legacy alive, including targeting those who threaten it." His heart raced with a cocktail of emotions: fear, disbelief, and an unsettling spark of hope. "Are you saying?" But before he could complete his thought, the distant chants morphed into chaos. "Don't you see?" Mary's voice trembled. "If they succeed, this could change everything. They could turn people's disbelief into fervor. But the high priest must be stopped or taken out of the equation entirely. That's why they're hunting us." Anguish contorted Nicodemus's face. The weight of his previous actions sent a cold shiver down his spine. "I can't think of the people, Nicodemus." She grasped his arm, pleading urgently. Their faith could give them strength to rise against the oppression of the authorities. "If we don't act now, everyone will fall under Caiaphas' wrath." He tore his gaze from hers, the conflict warring within him. Part of him wanted to flee, yet another part hungered for something greater than mere survival. Were they truly risking everything for a faint hope? The thought ignited passion amidst the dread. Where is this happening? The urgency surged through him, overriding the looming fear. Beside the tomb at dawn. "You must come." Her hand released his arm, urgency flowing like a lifeline between them. But we have to hurry. If they catch wind of this, a sudden rush of footsteps echoed in the alley, the urgency of shouts spinning them toward imminent danger. They're getting close. Mary's eyes widened in alarm. Nicodemus turned, his heart hammering against his ribcage. We need to find shelter. But as they bolted deeper into the labyrinth of streets, the frantic howls of betrayal coursed through the air, crushing hope beneath their weight. Each echo stretched long with dread. Would they find safety, or would they become pawns in a game far larger than themselves? Then a horrifying realization struck him. If they catch us, they will use us to get to the others. Then we must take the initiative. Mary urged, her determination igniting in the dim light. We cannot be their pawns any longer. We must turn the tide. Just as they rounded another corner, a group of cloaked figures loomed ahead, their movements calculated, sinister. The hairs on Nicodemus's neck stood on end. This was a game of lives, and already, pieces were moving into place. Could they really fight back against the darkness encroaching upon them? With every heartbeat, he felt the stakes rise. But what would they sacrifice to find the truth? As the figures closed in, a chilling thought crept into his mind. What if they were never meant to survive this night? And with that weight, revelation lingered in the air. Silence fell sharp around them. The shadows circled tighter, the echoing heartbeat of fate resounding loud and clear. In that darkness, would they forge a new path or fall into the abyss? They stood frozen, breath held taut like a drawn bowstring. The cloaked figures shifted, and Nicodemus instinctively reached for Mary's hand, their palms fitting together tightly, like pieces of a desperate puzzle. The street felt like a tunnel closing in on them, darkness creeping closer as the intruders moved with sickening confidence. Keep quiet, he whispered, eyes darting around for an escape. Just a few steps back, there was a narrow alley branching off, a potential lifeline. But the figures ahead were blocking their way. Each second stretching painfully as shouts from behind echoed closer, instilling dread that consumed him whole. Mary, he said, his voice barely audible, we have to move. With a surge of adrenaline, he yanked her toward the side alley, ducking low to avoid their view. They squeezed through the opening, heartbeats racing loudly in their ears amidst the distant shouts and the muffled chants of the crowd behind them. But safety was an illusion here. Right as they dove into the shadows, the unwanted shadows surged into the alley, glaring menacingly. There they are! One of the cloaked figures shouted, his voice slicing through the night like a knife. Nicodemus's heart sank. The figures rushed forward, their intentions clear. This wasn't just a chase, it was a hunt. Mary let out a gasp, eyes widening in terror. Run! Shouted Nicodemus, propelling them forward, deeper into the darkened alleys, with footsteps pounding behind them. The scenery blurred, becoming a series of harsh edges and shadows, danger lurking behind every wall. He could hear his own panicked breaths, feel the sweat trickling down his spine as they rounded another corner, the night air thickening with tension and fear. Where do we go? Mary screamed, panic rising in her tone. Trust me. He shouted back, willing her to believe in him. He had no plan, only raw, instinctual will pushing him forward. As they turned another alley, Nicodemus spotted an abandoned doorway just ahead. Without thinking, he grasped the handle and yanked it open, shoving Mary inside and following closely behind. The door creaked ominously as he latched it shut. Inside the small, dusty room, darkness enveloped them. His heart raced, thundering against his ribcage, every muscle tense, waiting. Do you think they saw us? Mary whispered, trembling. I don't know, he replied, his voice shaky. They could still hear the muffled sounds of footsteps outside, like predators prowling for their prey. Silence fell, heavy and choking, but through the gloom, urgency echoed within them. Nicodemus glanced around the room, cluttered with remnants of a life once lived, broken furniture and faded memories of what might have been. Mary, he said, glancing back at her, we need to get out of here and find the others. If we don't warn them. But she interrupted, eyes shining with fear. And if Caiaphas gets to us first? It's a trap, Nicodemus. We can't just walk into danger. Then we fight. He insisted, summoning an unexpected warmth. We can't let them take us down without a fight. Our lives depend on facing this. Mary's eyes met his, uncertainty battling against the flickering flame of hope. But do you really believe it's worth it? What if we fail? His gaze hardened. If we don't stand now, we risk losing everything we care about. With a deep breath, she steeled herself. Then let us do it. Together. The shadows outside shifted again, reminding them their moment of safety would be short-lived. As the gloom thickened around them, a plan began to form in Nicodemus's mind, a way to make the darkness work for them. There were allies out there who believed the same, who shared their faith. But they couldn't stay here. On three, he whispered, adrenaline surging. We'll burst out and make a break for the main street. They won't expect us to come out fighting. Okay, she nodded, her resolve igniting. Ready? 1, 2. Before he could count to 3, the door shook violently, rattled by eager fists from the other side. What now? Mary gasped, panic etching lines across her face. The moment of action teetered on a nice edge. Now, he said firmly, we fight or we die trying. In the stillness that followed, the sound of wood splintering filled the air, breaking their moment of resolve into chaos. What awaited them on the other side of that door? Would they be the hunters or the hunted? With hearts pounding as one, they prepared to face the unknown. The splintering wood echoed like a thunderclap, reverberating in the stillness of the room. Nicodemus braced himself. Time stretched and twisted, every heartbeat a reminder of their fragile state. The door rattled again, the eager fists pounding with unholy urgency. Shadows danced before them, mere silhouettes against the fading light. Hold on. Nicodemus barked, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He turned to Mary, whose eyes were wide with fear. We make our stand here. The door creaked ominously as the cloaked figures on the other side intensified their assault. Nicodemus instinctively reached for anything he could find to defend them. His fingers closed around a nearby rusty pipe. It felt heavy and comforting, a weapon in a time of chaos. He glanced at Mary, whose resolve was hardening like steel despite her trembling form. What if there is too many? She whispered, her voice cracking. We won't let them take us without a fight. Remember why we're here. He made direct eye contact, letting his conviction fill the space between them. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who believes. Mary nodded, an ember of bravery sparking deep within her. With a final crash, the door burst open, flying off its hinges. 3 cloaked figures surged into the room, their faces hidden beneath dark hoods. The air grew thick with urgency. Nicodemus raised the pipe, bracing for impact, ready to defend their very existence. Get down! He shouted, swinging the pipe like a bat. It connected with the nearest figure, sending him sprawling backward. Mary acted instinctively, grabbing an old lamp from a nearby table and wielding it like a club. She swung wildly, connecting with another figure. The sound of contact was satisfying yet horrifying. Keep moving, Nicodemus urged. They had only seconds before more would spill into the room. They darted toward the back, navigating through the maze of furniture and darkness. One hooded figure lunged at Nicodemus, grabbing for his arm. Just like that, fear seeped back in, icy and relentless. He twisted free, heart racing, adrenaline screaming for flight or fight. This way! He yelled, pushing Mary forward toward a doorway that led to a dim-lit hallway. Breathless, they stumbled into the corridor, scanning for an exit. Every moment felt like a lifetime as the shouts of their pursuers grew closer. We can't let them corner us! Mary exclaimed, eyes flaring with panic. What do we do? Think! Nicodemus replied, the urgency of the situation sharpening his focus. There's gotta be a way out. An escape route. Just then, a loud bellow erupted from the shadows, a voice more commanding than any they had faced. Nicodemus! You think you can escape so easily? His gut twisted. Caiaphas. That name sent a chill down his spine, and not just from fear. It triggered a memory, a promise made in the shadows, the weight of secrets best left unsaid. Caiaphas is here, he muttered, dread curling around his heart. Who is that? Mary asked, anxiety tangling her voice. Someone who won't rest until he has what he wants. They rounded another corner, but the space shrank dangerously, the pressure tightening as cloaked figures closed in again. Here! Mary shouted, spotting a window at the end of the corridor. It was their only hope. On three! Nicodemus shouted, determination igniting within him again. We jump! Okay! She replied, equal parts fear and resolve fueling them forward. Ready? 1, 2. The ground beneath trembled as footsteps replaced the beat of their hearts, reverberating louder, closer, the pursuers mere moments behind them. 3. Go! They leaped through the open window, a cacophony of glass shattering echoing in their wake. Fresh air greeted them, exhilarating but tinged with chaos. They landed in a heap on hard ground, adrenaline racing wild. Nicodemus scrambled onto his feet, scanning the area. We got to find the others. They need to know we're here. With renewed vigor, they sprinted into the night. The dimly lit streets blurred as shadows danced around them, but they could still hear Caiaphas' voice. Echoing behind them, angry and relentless. This isn't over, Nicodemus. As they ran, Nicodemus' thoughts flickered to the horrifying truth of that night, the weight of what he was about to face. There was more than just survival at stake. What had he uncovered? What would he sacrifice to protect the others? Do you think they'll follow us? Mary panted, fear still clinging to her. They'll try, he replied, glancing back. But we can't stop now. As they raced along the street, an unsettling thought lodged in Nicodemus' mind. The truth of his connection to Caiaphas and the lengths to which one man would go for power, it was all connected in ways they were only beginning to understand. Could they survive what lay ahead? Or had they just stepped deeper into a trap far more deadly than the one they'd escaped? Turning sharply, they didn't see what was coming next. They rounded the corner with desperation fueling their every move, but before Nicodemus could fully process the shift in the air, it happened. A street lamp flickered once, splattering its light across the alley, illuminating the faces of 2 more cloaked figures standing ominously just a few feet away. The dim glow caught the glint in their eyes, sharp, hungry, and unyielding. Stop! One of them commanded, stepping forward as though he were the embodiment of authority. The other figure remained still, cloaked in silence, as if waiting for the moment to pounce. Go! Nicodemus shouted, adrenaline forcing his feet forward. He grabbed Mary by the wrist and yanked her along, but not before a gloved hand grasped his shoulder, spinning him around. In a split second, he swung the rusty pipe, but it connected with nothing but air. The figure had dodged, moving like a shadow, evading his strike with ease. Fear gripped Nicodemus momentarily, but as he glanced back, he saw Mary, her eyes wide, fisted hands poised to fight. Mary, don't! He shouted, desperate for her to understand. But it was too late, she stood her ground. I won't let you face them alone. She cried, determination igniting in her voice. Focus, this isn't just a fight. Nicodemus roared, his heart pounding against his ribcage like a war drum. You have to trust me. Suddenly, the second cloaked figure lunged at Mary, arms outstretched as if to envelop her in darkness. Snapping back to reality, Nicodemus moved, kicking the attacker hard in the chest. The figure staggered back, their hood slipping just enough for Nicodemus to glimpse a pale face, twisted in rage. Do you really think running will save you? The first figure sneered as he drew closer, its tone dripping with malice. Caiaphas will not let you escape again. You've meddled with forces beyond your understanding. For a heartbeat, fear slashed through him, but beneath it simmered a stubborn pulse of rebellion. I don't fear him, Nicodemus spat, his voice steadying as if he struck a chord of defiance deep within. There's too much at stake. More figures emerged from the fog, surrounding them as shadows painted their silhouettes against the murky background of the alley. Mary swung the lamp desperately, connecting solidly with one of them, but it felt like battling against a tide. Back to back. He shouted, positioning himself beside her. We can't let them divide us. As they locked their defenses, the thick air crackled with impending violence. Rage surged through Nicodemus, intensifying his focus. Memories of what he had witnessed, the faces of those lost in darkness fueled his resolve. "Please, we can't do this," Mary cried as a figure pressed into her territory. "Stay strong," he urged, gritting his teeth as he swung his pipe again, watching as it caught another enemy off guard. But no sooner had he celebrated a moment's victory than a tightened fist connected with the side of his head. Dazed, he stumbled, blinking hard to clear his vision. Mary screamed, a terrifying, piercing sound that echoed off the brick walls. "Nicodemus!" In that instant, his gaze met hers, and the terror reflected back hit him like a punch to the gut. They were utterly outnumbered, trapped like prey, thick shadows circling them like vultures. Just then, as he struggled to regain composure, the realization of their dire predicament crashed over him. Caiaphas was not just after them, he was after something far more insidious. "Run!" Nicodemus bellowed again, and seeing Mary hesitate had him lunging forward, adrenaline igniting his limbs. They carved a path through the darkness, but every step felt weighted, magic and mischief coiling tighter around them. Then, amidst the chaos, a deafening bang detonated behind them, a noise so jarring it felt like the earth had fractured. Debris rained down, and the ground shuddered ominously beneath them. Air rushed from his lungs as the alley lit up, revealing a hidden doorway, just moments from their escape. "Into the light!" he shouted, dashing toward a scissor-like gap that seemed to beckon them to safety. But the shadows whispered secrets and danger, wrapping around Nicodemus's throat as he pushed through the entrance. Would it be a way out or deeper into the grip of Caiaphas? As they stepped inside, a cut above the doorway caught Mary's attention, and she gasped. "Look!" She pointed. Nicodemus turned to see an ominous symbol shimmer before them, a dark crest shining with an eerie illumination. What dark truth awaited them inside? Would they even make it out? With a final glance back as the shadows crept closer, he knew they were about to uncover secrets that could shatter everything they believed in. Was the truth worse than the monsters chasing them down? The moment they crossed the threshold, a chill wrapped around them like an icy grip. The door behind them slammed shut, the echo reverberating through the dimly lit room. A heavy silence settled in, cold and thick like fog. "Where are we?" Mary whispered, her voice trembling. She was scanning the room, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. The symbol above them pulsed with a sickly glow, throwing distorted shapes on the walls. "I don't know," Nicodemus replied, his heart racing. "But we need to keep moving." They stood in what appeared to be an underground chamber, empty except for crumbling stone walls and the faint shimmer of that dark crest. The air was stale, tinged with the scent of something ancient and forgotten. Shadows flickered as he strained to make sense of their surroundings. A noise broke the silence and echoed around them, a low growl, almost like a distant thunder. Nicodemus drew in a sharp breath, the realization dawning on him that the shadows weren't just chasing them, they were also lurking within these very walls. "Nicodemus, look!" Mary pointed as her face paled. He turned just in time to see a dark figure materializing from the corner. It was cloaked in shadow, and the outline morphed and twisted more than human, it seemed. The creature's eyes glowed bright, piercing the dimness like shards of ice. "Caiaphas," he breathed, feeling a tidal wave of fear wash over him. "He's here?" Mary gasped, stepping back. But before Nicodemus could answer, the creature surged forward, racing toward them in an instant. Nicodemus spun, wielding the rusty pipe in desperate defense, but the things that had once felt solid and tangible now slipped into the realm of nightmare. "I won't let him take you," he shouted, his determination clashing with the shadow's relentless approach. They needed to find a way out, to break free of the clutches of the darkness. "Where's the exit?" Mary yelled over the thrumming of her heartbeat. In the corner of the room, Nicodemus spotted another door, half hidden behind a wall of unfamiliar runes. He started to run, urgency pushing him forward. "Over there!" They bolted toward the door, but the shadow lunged toward them, teeth glinting sharp and deadly. The moment felt suspended in time as Nicodemus took in Mary's terror, the flickering glow of the crest, and the monstrous figure advancing like a storm. "Move!" he shouted, smashing the pipe down hard on the shadow as it lunged for them, but it merely staggered, a ghastly grin spreading across its spectral face. They made it to the door, but it was locked, an obsidian handle without a key, chilling under their fingers. Panic surged, and Nicodemus felt the world constrict, breaths shortening with the weight of dread. "Of course it's locked!" Mary cried, pounding on the door in vain. "What do we do?" "I don't know," he shouted back, his voice frantic. "We need to find a way." The shadow was almost upon them now, cold air brushing against their skin like whispers of despair. Time turned fluid, seconds stretching into eternity as Nicodemus's mind raced for a solution. Then, a thought pierced through him. "Wait!" He focused on the crest above the door, the bloody chaos swirling in his mind. "The symbol, it's a seal. Maybe if we..." The shadow lunged, and the air thickened, smothering them as it neared. In one swift motion, Nicodemus reached out, pressing his palm against the crest. A shudder ran through the room, a surge of energy resonating from the symbol as he uttered the words he had heard in whispers across the underground. It was a risk, a gamble that could either condemn or save them. As the door began to shimmer and pulse in rhythm with his words, the shadow let out a horrific shriek. Nicodemus felt shockwaves of power rip through him, sending him staggering. In that moment, Mary clutched his arm, her gaze flickering from him to the approaching darkness. "What if it doesn't work? I don't have another choice. We have to trust that those who came before us left a way out." The shadow recoiled, momentarily blinded by the pulse of light from the crest, and the door began to budge. "Push!" Nicodemus yelled, channeling every ounce of strength. It creaked open just enough for a sliver of light to escape. With one final leap of faith, they plunged through the opening. But as they fell into the light, Nicodemus couldn't shake the feeling that somehow, they were not free yet. What lay ahead beyond the threshold? Would they find safety, or would they tumble straight into the hand of Caiaphas? They landed hard on a cold stone floor, the sound of their bodies thudding against the ground echoing in the darkness. Nicodemus quickly pushed himself up, heart thrumming wildly as he scanned the new surroundings. This room was larger, far more expansive than before, but the air felt oppressive, stifling as if it held secrets eager to be whispered. "Are we safe?" Mary breathed, her voice barely a murmur. The light from the door faded behind them, leaving nothing but a low, grinding thrum in the air. Shadows stretched and twisted along the far walls. I don't know," Nicodemus admitted, his throat tight with uncertainty. The fear that had been a gnawing presence in his gut transformed into a cold sweat. They had escaped, but what were they running towards? Suddenly, the shadows shifted, coalescing into a figure that emerged from the darkness, cloaked in the same gloom that had pursued them previous. It was a silhouette, familiar yet nightmarish. "Welcome," it intoned, voice reverberating like thunder. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing a pale face etched with malevolence. "Caiaphas!" Nicodemus hissed, his pulse quickening. Mary instinctively stepped closer to him, her breath hitching in fear as their pursuer advanced. "What do you want from us?" she asked, her voice quavering. A sharp smile creased Caiaphas's lips, revealing teeth glinting like daggers. "You seek answers, Nicodemus. Yet you play a dangerous game." Nicodemus felt a surge of rebellious courage. "Let us go. You have no power here." Caiaphas laughed, a sound that chilled Nicodemus to the bone. "Ah, but here? In the realms between life and death? I am power itself." Merciless shadows slithered across the floor, crawling closer with sinister intent. "You should have known the moment you stepped through that door. This realm, it feeds on fear, on desperation. And you, my dear Nicodemus, have given it plenty to devour." A chilling realization dawned on Nicodemus. Their fear was this creature's sustenance. The very emotions that were meant to save them became tools of their entrapment. "We won't let you control us," he shouted, anger igniting within him, aflame against the encroaching darkness. With unexpected abruptness, Caiaphas gestured, and the floor erupted around them. Weathered runes flared with brilliance, throwing the room into chaos. "Your defiance is admirable, but futile." Before Nicodemus could grasp what was happening, Mary screamed, her form dissolving into a haze of shadow as the light dimmed to an ominous glow. "Mary!" Nicodemus lunged forward, but something held him back, a force he couldn't comprehend. Come, Caiaphas beckoned, the shadows now swirling with hypnotic patterns. "Embrace the truth of yourself. Stop. Let her go."
Nicodemus's throat burned with desperation.
Only the truth can release her.
All that remains is your choice.
His heart raced.
The choice. Was it his truth that Caiaphas sought? Memories surged and crashed through him like a wave.
His past under Caiaphas influenced the secrets he kept, the lies he lived.
Could these truths save Mary? Or would they betray him?
Choose wisely, Nicodemus, Caiaphas hissed, as the darkness grew more oppressive. Or you may just lose her forever. And in that moment, trapped between light and shadow, Nicodemus understood he stood at a precipice. The ground beneath him shook with the weight of his choice as he felt the familiar warmth of fear seep back into him. What could the truth cost him? And what cost would silence bring? As the echoes of turmoil reverberated through the chamber, the answer loomed like a tempest, dark and unyielding.
Would he dare confront it?
His mind raced, heart pounding in cadence with the thrumming energy surrounding him. Caiaphas's shadowed figure loomed, a predator circling its prey, and Nicodemus could feel the weight of the choice pressing like a stone in his chest.
The questions clawed at him. What truth?
What would he have to sacrifice to save Mary? A cold panic gripped him as he glanced where Mary had stood. The shadows flickered, casting her faint outline, still fighting against the dark tendrils that dragged at her. Her face was twisted with terror, and it ignited something primal within him. He wouldn't lose her. Nicodemus began, but the words faltered on his lips. His past echoed in his ears, the whispers of power, his secret meetings, the small shadows he cast over truth for the sake of his position. He had always been the coward, hiding behind the facades of faith and loyalty, but now that cowardice could cost him everything.
Your past is a fragile thing,
Caiaphas crooned, taking a step closer as if his very presence could stifle Nicodemus's resolve. Face it, and she may be freed, or head deeper into darkness. The shadows snarled as a gust of wind seemed to funnel through the room, pulling at Nicodemus, taunting him, reminding him that silence had never brought him peace.
It had always been a prison. Could breaking free from that prison cost him the life of the one he loved? Tell me.
Nicodemus shouted, desperation spilling out in raw, uneven gasps.
What is the truth? Caiaphas's smile widened, sharp and malevolent. Ah, Nicodemus, you know the truth. You've lived it. What were you willing to do for him?
The question slammed into him like a wave, pulling him backward through time to that fateful day when he had watched the Romans crucify Jesus. The alleys had been dark, and his heart had thudded with fear, but he had helped, hadn't he? Under the cover of night, he had been there, holding the precious spices, ready to prepare the body.
Stop!
He screamed, doubling over as the memories cascaded over him, drowning him.
I want to relive that pain. Pain? Caiaphas mocked, eyes glinting with an unholy light.
Or perhaps redemption.
There lies the choice, Nicodemus. Do you let your fears silence you, or do you raise your voice against the darkness? What do you want from me?
Nicodemus wailed, frantically scanning the swirling shadows as they began to envelop him. Only your truth, Caiaphas replied, voice oozing satisfaction.
The brutal truth that binds you to this moment.
In the face of dread, Nicodemus felt the walls close in, pressuring him to confront every secret he'd buried. To save Mary, he needed to face the very essence of his soul, the shadows that stirred beneath layers of shame and regret.
Can you face your choice? Caiaphas pressed, shadows now pulsing in rhythm with Nicodemus's heartbeat. Dare you stand in the light of your own actions?
Let it shape you.
With Mary's gasping breaths echoing in his ears, a spark ignited within him. He wouldn't be that man anymore.
Not the man molded by fear or by the whispers of Caiaphas.
I will not be afraid, Nicodemus declared, summoning every ounce of courage he possessed.
I will confront my past. And as he spoke, the room erupted in a maelstrom of howling wind and flashing shadows. The air cracked with energy, pulsing dangerously as a fierce light washed over him. But instead of feeling liberated, he sensed a darkness tightening around him, smothering him like a lingering curse. Foolish boy, Caiaphas sneered, the shadows suddenly vibrating with hunger.
You do not understand the price of your truth.
The shadows closed in tighter, swirling into a cyclone that threatened to swallow him whole, and in that moment, the realization hit him: could the truth cost him not only Mary's life but his own as well? The atmosphere thickened.
The walls trembled ominously. Nicodemus had taken the leap, but the darkness clawed back, desperate to reclaim its hold. What would he ultimately sacrifice to expose not only the secrets of his past but the depths of the darkness unfurling around him? As the cyclone tightened, the answer dared to emerge, whispering promises of liberation tinged with despair. Could he truly emerge from this night? With a fierce roar, the shadows surged, clawing at Nicodemus, demanding to pull him into the abyss of his own fears. The air thickened, tinged with a metallic scent. Nicodemus was losing himself, drowning in a sea of darkness. But he had taken his stand. He wouldn't back down now. Enough! Nicodemus bellowed, determination seeping into every syllable. I confront my past, every betrayal I harbored, every whisper of cowardice I've allowed to define me. His voice echoed, challenging the shadows. I won't let fear dictate my choices any longer. With every word he spoke, a light began to pierce through the suffocating darkness surrounding him. It trembled at first, like a flickering flame struggling for a breath of air. But as he continued, the light intensifying, the shadows recoiled, hissing as if they themselves felt the heat of his conviction. Mary! He shouted, and the sound filled the chamber with an echo warmer than the light. I will save you. The shadows shivered at the sound of her name, a fleeting instance of hesitation flowing through the black tendrils of darkness. Nicodemus focused on the entrapment of his mind forged in past fears. It was a prison he willingly built. I see your face, Caiaphas. I see the truth behind the mask. The figure snarled, the shadows twisting like boiling water beneath the surface. You think that mere words can alter your fate? I think my choice defines it, Nicodemus countered. I choose to break free. With that declaration, the light erupted, engulfing everything. In a heartbeat, it cut through the dark like a hot knife through butter. The shadows shrieked, their anguished cries reverberating like thunder. And at the center of it all stood Nicodemus, hand outstretched as the warmth flooded over him, illuminating the whole chamber. Mary, still held captive in the choking shadows, seemed to shimmer in and out of existence. The light illuminated her figure, pulling her back from the clutch of darkness. Nicodemus! She cried. I can't hold on. I'm here. Trust me. Nicodemus called out, channeling every shred of warmth from the light into his hand. Step into the light. You don't have to fight the dark any longer. With a challenging surge, the pool of light spread towards Mary, enveloping her in a loving glow. Even as shadows clawed and twisted viciously, something shifted. The tendrils that ensnared her began to loosen, weakened by the burgeoning strength of the light. Now! Nicodemus urged, watching as the shadows tore themselves apart with anguished cries, leaving only the purity of the emerging light. Come to me! With a final, desperate push, Mary rushed into the radiant luminescence. They collided, and the light engulfed them both, weaving their fates together once again. As the brilliance of their bonding exploded outward, the shadows disintegrated, scattering like ashes in the wind. The oppressive atmosphere dissipated, leaving behind a chamber bathed in warmth and hope. Caiaphas's figure blurred and twisted, then evaporated entirely, his dark laughter the last remnant lost to the light. Surrounded by the radiance, Nicodemus collapsed, breathless but alive. Mary, he whispered, the warmth of her presence grounding him. She was on her knees beside him, joy and disbelief lighting up her face. We did it, yes, he replied, the weight lifting as he gazed into her eyes. We faced the shadows. Together. With renewed bond and resilience, they rose, the pulse of light wrapping them in an embrace that vibrated with unfathomable power. They were no longer defined by the past. Each step they took, from that point forward, would echo with hope and courage. Leaving fear behind together, they made their way out of the underground chamber, where dawn broke beyond the threshold, the first rays painting the sky bright gold. The shadows that loomed over their lives were nothing more than whispers in the wind now, powerless against the rising sun. As they stepped into that morning light, warmth enveloped them, the past faded into a mere memory. Yet, they understood, they would always carry the truth of that night. We have to share this with everyone, Nicodemus stated firmly, their belief can change everything. And we'll do it together, Mary added, the fierce determination mirrored in her eyes. With that, they turned toward the city, hand in hand, ready to ignite a spark that would awaken countless others to the truth,
leaving behind shadows forever haunting. So, as the sun rose on that fateful day, something powerful took root in Jerusalem, a revolution of hope and truth that would reshape everything they knew. And now, that was a beginning. You need to subscribe now to catch the next chapter of incredible stories that will shake your world. Smash that like button now, because it fuels this channel and brings you more awesome content. Flood the comments section. I want to hear your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to experience this story. Your support makes a huge difference to this channel.